Hello, happy Tuesday, ladies. Sorry, I'm a little bit later than my usual 12 o'clock energy shift. We are back in Arizona, and my life is a little bit wonky, just kind of settling back into a different house and a different routine and a different schedule. So I apologize for my slight tardiness. I also apologize for the fact that I look really tired. I actually slept great last night. I usually wear eyelashes though, and I ordered new eyelash glue to arrive before we got back, and it did, but it was completely dried out. So I have no eyelash glue, and I left my mascara in at the Mexico house. If you don't know me, my name is Erin, and I live half of my life in Puerto Penasco, Mexico, and then the other half in Williams, Arizona. So anytime we make the switch, there's always some hectic things that happen in between. But I'm hoping by this time next week, everything will be settled and I will look less exhausted. But I have no first world problems, right? I have no eyelash glue and I have no mascara. So it just is what it is. And we're here and we're showing up as we are. So I asked some questions this week about health problems and anything that people were wanting help navigating. One thing that was brought up was food allergies. So we're going to get into that. And another one was workouts. How many workouts should we be doing a week? What's optimal? What's going to get results? And what's overdoing it? I think those are both really good topics and both within my wheelhouse. I will mention that I'm not a doctor, so I cannot diagnose anything, but I have helped many women and men, but primarily women, navigate food allergies, gut health issues, hormonal imbalances, all of those things with functional practices. So taking a full mind body approach to it, understanding what might be going on at the source instead of just throwing pharmaceuticals at it, that kind of thing, and really understanding what's happening when our body is having responses like rashes, digestive issues, hair loss, those kinds of things that can come along with food allergies. So first we'll get into workouts. How many workouts are optimal per week to be able to get the results that you want? So obviously this depends on the individual. It's going to depend on your specific schedule and your specific goals. But what I like to have people start out at, so this is the base level of where I think most women should be. And I am an advocate for strength in everybody, but women especially, and especially women over the age of 35, we start to lose muscle mass in our 30s if we're not actively trying not to. And if we don't combat that, going into our 40s is going to be a lot harder. We start to see insulin resistance. We start to see belly fat gain. We start to see a lot more inflammation. We start to see fat loss resistance. The diets that you were doing prior don't work anymore. You are eating similarly, but yet the scale keeps creeping up. Those kinds of things often have to do with a lack of metabolic tissue in the form of lean muscle mass. So I always recommend to women to implement a strength training protocol 2 to 4 times per week. Anywhere between 30 and 60 minutes per session, depending on how much time you have, will work. I honestly don't even get to 60 minutes most of the time. My workouts are 4 times a week, about 45 minutes for the lifting portion. And then I usually have a step goal that I hit every day and sometimes a cardio goal, depending on the time of year, the goal, that kind of thing. But cardio is kind of an extra step. It's not necessary. It can help with fat loss, but nutrition is going to come first. Muscle mass is highly important. Food quality is highly important. And getting those steps in throughout the day is going to help more than adding in cardio. So if you don't have time to do all of that, I would say 2 to 4 strength training workouts a week between 30 and 60 minutes in length, and then hitting somewhere between 7 to 10,000 steps a day on average. Maybe you can do more on the weekends. It can be an average also. So if you are busy and you work a more sedentary job during the week, you absolutely can make up for some steps on the weekend. So what that might look like is you hit 7 Monday through Thursday, and then you have a little bit more flexibility Friday, Saturday, Sunday, so then you can hit 10 to 12,000 steps. that is going to create an average of somewhere close to, 8,000-9,000 steps a day, which is great. So that is optimal when it comes to workouts. So and depending on what your goal is, what we want to prioritize is heavy weights, heavier than you think in most situations. So getting into a gym space is super important, or being able to invest in proper equipment as you progress. You can start with lower dumbbells and kettlebells and adjustables, those kinds of things, but you are going to want to progress over time to heavier weights. And this is where a lot of women get stuck, is we're still utilizing the same, 3, 5, 10-pound dumbbells that we've been using for years and years and years. Therefore, we're not challenging the muscle enough to build that lean muscle mass that we want. So again, that can be either done in a gym, or depending on your financial resources, continue to purchase more heavy weights as you progress in. Oh, somebody just said hi. Hi. I can't see your name, but I just see that you said hi. So hi. If you have any questions about workouts or fat loss or food allergies, now is the time to do so. But yeah, so getting into the gym space or investing in heavier weights as you grow into your weightlifting routine is going to be crucial for continued progress and continued muscle growth, which also helps with insulin resistance. It helps with fat loss resistance. It's going to help with sustainability once you get the body fat off, if that's your goal. Muscle helps you sustain that. You can eat more. Your basal metabolic rate goes up, meaning that your body can handle more calories at rest. And that is all due to having lean muscle mass on the body. Plus, it gives you that toned look that a lot of women want, right? So there are really no downsides to getting in the gym, lifting heavy. Again, it can be as little as 30 minutes a day up to 60 minutes a day, 2 to 4 times per week. If you're just getting started, start with 2 at 30 minutes and then work your way up to more. I always want to start where you're at and add more, instead of saying, I'm going to do 4 this week, hitting 2 and then feeling guilty about it. Hit 2. If you hit 3, make your goal 2. If you hit 3, then you're over. And that is the mindset that we want to have when we're approaching workouts, especially if you're getting back into it after a while off. But again, this particular individual was asking about time frame for workouts, if somewhere between 30 and 60 minutes is optimal for seeing results. It absolutely is. Your nutrition is going to play a huge role in the results that you have too. So if you aren't seeing the results that you want from those workouts, analyze your nutrition, your calories, your protein, and your fiber. Okay. Now let's talk about food allergies and how to start to troubleshoot and navigate that. This can be really frustrating because oftentimes in Western medicine, we don't get the answers that we want to, especially when their food allergies aren't extreme, like they're not causing anaphylactic shock, or you're not, like, your throat isn't closing up, you don't have extreme skin issues, those kinds of things. It's just causing some bloat, some bowel issues, GI things, those kinds of problems. But what we don't realize is that if our gut health is off, our mental health is off, our physical health is off, all of these things start to kind of become one big ball of problems. And if we identify what's going on in the gut, we can shift our feel-good hormones. So if we're talking about like dopamine and serotonin, we also can shift our hunger hormone. So if you're having a lot of cravings, if you experience what they're calling now food noise quite significantly, a lot of those things are originating from poor gut health. And what we can do there is start to, one, identify food allergies, and also start to identify anywhere where you are imbalanced or malnourished. Malnourishment has gotten kind of a weird rap. Like, what we think of there is people who are essentially starving. That isn't really the case for most people in the US. So we don't deal with a whole lot of food not being readily available. So what I mean by malnourished is that we're under consuming the vital nutrients that it takes for our bodies to remain balanced, to remain closer to homeostasis, to lose body fat, to gain muscle, to sleep well. All of those things are vitally important for overall like functionality throughout our weeks and days. So we have to identify any potential triggers when it comes to what might be affecting our gut health. And what I like to do is start with a what I call an autoimmune protocol. This is where we remove gluten, dairy, and alcohol first to see if you have a high inflammatory response from known foods that can be problematic for our gut health. I usually keep, if I'm honest, Greek yogurt in there, even though I said dairy free, because I have noticed with myself and my clients that Greek yogurt processes differently in the system. And because of like the probiotics and stuff in there, it can be really good for gut health. So it doesn't necessarily cause the more like higher inflammatory response as things like cheese, those kinds of foods, sour cream, that are usually used as a garnish on our foods anyway. And so if we just cut those things out temporarily, we might not have a dairy issue. Gluten can be a pretty big variable when it comes to gut health issues and when it comes to fat loss resistance. So if we are experiencing, a lot of people don't have like a gluten allergy. What they have is a sensitivity to the what we're using to treat the wheat. So essentially the chemicals that are used to treat wheat in the US, a lot of people are sensitive to that, and without knowing it are becoming more like, that's why there's this influx of people who have gluten issues or are coming out with gluten-free diets and or like a higher rise of celiac disease. And celiac is an autoimmune condition, whereas like a gluten intolerance may be more of an allergy or a sensitivity, again, to the chemicals used to treat the wheat. So it could be any of those things. And oftentimes when we get the gut health a little bit more stable, we can add these things back in moderation. The first year that I did this, I have celiac, so I don't eat gluten at all unless I make a big mistake. But I did cut out dairy for 7 months. I allowed my gut health to heal, and now I can eat dairy. Like I have pizza with cheese on it. I don't do milk just because I don't prefer it. I'll do like an almond milk or an oat milk or something along those lines. But I have Greek yogurt every single day. We have cottage cheese often. We, like I said, we'll do cheese on a burger or pizza or whatever the case may be. And I don't react the same way to it that I did before when my gut was less healthy. And so what's important to understand there too is if we are nutrient imbalanced, meaning we're not getting enough fiber in most cases, we are dealing with gut microbiome that's kind of mad. This can happen for a lot of reasons, or liver health. That's another problem too that we're seeing. The liver isn't cleaning out the toxins like it needs to, and that can manifest in a lot of different ways. Hair loss issues, skin issues, sleep issues, waking up at 3 a.m. A lot of those things stem from gut health and liver dysfunction. And we can have liver dysfunction and it not be tied to alcohol. So I don't want you to think, well, I don't drink or I don't drink that much, so I probably don't have that. A lot of times it's from toxins in the air, a lot of scents that we use, the things we put on our skin, things we put on our hair. There's a lot of things that can cause some liver dysfunction. So you can start to work on that as well. I think I've mentioned that in a training prior, is getting on a liver cleanse supplement. It usually they have milk thistle in them and some things like ashwagandha to help calm you down, to chill you out, because it can also cause a rise in anxiety. But anyway, so to start, and if you have identified something that you think that you're allergic to, what I like to recommend is spending 8 to 12 weeks not eating that food and then slowly adding things back in one at a time. So if you think it might be gluten, or you think it might be a fruit, or you think it might be dairy, or you think it might be whatever the case may be, take those out for 8 to 12 weeks and then slowly add back in one thing at a time. and let your body get used to it. Don't do it like 5 days in a row. So let's say you think you have a gluten intolerance, take gluten out for 8 to 12 weeks and then have one bagel or one piece of toast. Identify like how you are feeling for like the next 48 hours, because it can take some time for your body to the nutrients, for there to be a reaction. Obviously, if there's an immediate reaction, you'll know that you do have a sensitivity, most likely to wheat, and or you are still working on making sure your gut is healthy. If you already know what your food allergies are and you're still experiencing problems, this is where we need to work on gut health. And what we can do there is, one, make sure you're getting enough fiber every day. We want 25 to 30 grams of whole food based, so like fruits, vegetables, nuts, that kind of thing, fiber sources, without supplementing. Now, you can supplement, but it isn't ideal for improving gut health. Green tea, matcha tea, those kinds of things can also help improve your gut microbiome and staying stable on your foods. So, what we often see when I'm looking at people's food logs when they come in, especially with gut health issues, is one day we're eating extremely low calorie. Often I see this in moms because we forget to eat. So, we're skipping breakfast or lunch or both, and then just having dinner. So, that can cause some major gut disruption. If you think about it, like your gut is clearing itself out. We don't eat all day, and then we introduce a lot of variables in the later hours of the day. Another thing that can cause gut health issues is having like a really, really long food window. So if we're up at 6 a.m. and we're starting to drink coffee creamer as early as 6:15 or 6:30, and then we get home and make dinner at 6 p.m. and then continue to snack, have drinks or whatever after dinner, we're looking at a extremely long food window. And your body needs time to know what to do with the nutrients that you're giving it, help just like get waste out that it doesn't need, process the foods in your body, burn body fat, all of the things that it's working on all simultaneously at the same time, depending on what your health and wellness goals is. And it doesn't really matter if you have a body composition goal, this still applies to you, regardless of whether or not you're working on something physically or if you're just here to chat about your overall internal health. So shortening that food window, and I'm not talking about fasting, it's called time restricted or window restricted eating, which we want to be in like a 10-hour window. And we talked about this when we talked about sleep. I think that was last week. This can help improve sleep quality. It can help improve hormones. It can help improve digestive health and gut health. It's going to help with sustainability of your bowels. A lot of those things are benefited by simply, we're not even talking about changing what you're eating, we're just shortening the window. So what that would look like would be starting to consume calories at 8 a.m. and stopping at 6 p.m., not having the late night snacks, letting your body rest and digest, and getting your circadian rhythm back into a good place. So again, like if you're sleeping well, you're digesting well, you might not have the food allergies that you think. Our bodies are thrown off because we're not practicing these. They tend to sound simple, like getting enough sleep, of course, getting enough protein, getting enough fiber. We all know what we're supposed to do, but they can kind of fall by the wayside when we get stressed out. So that is the first thing that I would look at, is your food window. The second thing is, how much protein and fiber are you getting in? How are we experiencing bloating, distension, and symptoms of food allergies? If so, the removal of gluten, dairy, and alcohol for 12 weeks, or any potential foods that you are identifying as a trigger for you, and then slowly adding that stuff back in while focusing on adding or making sure you're getting enough fiber and nutrients. That is huge. Again, 25 to 30 grams of whole food based fiber sources a day. If you need a fiber list, I have one. So just reach out to me. I can send that over to you. But again, berries, leafy greens, nuts, avocado, all of those are great fiber sources that will help improve your gut health and bloating. a lot of times when we suspect food allergies, what we're actually experiencing is a gut health issue. So we can use these steps to identify what is going on, see if you actually are allergic or if it's something that we need to work on within the gut microbiome, and give you some relief so that you what we have done in the past, or what I have done in the past, is somebody who is sensitive to something like gluten or dairy, but not necessarily allergic, is get their gut health healthy, and then they can have it from time to time. Yes, it might cause an inflammatory response, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. What that might look like is you have a little bit of bloating, but your gut health is managed, so not as much as you did before, and or the scale is up a pound or two the next day, and that should come back down within a day or two of having a food that you know is a known trigger to you. And that's up to you. You like inflammation, I think we get scared of that word. It's not necessarily a bad thing unless it's chronic and causing you problems. So if you're trying to lose body fat and not, if you are extremely bloated and you can't get that back down, if you notice a lot of puffiness in your face, or your clothes aren't fitting correctly, but like you're not noticing fat gain, you're noticing more distension. And I think that's where we kind of get confused too with food allergies, or food sensitivities and gut health, is we don't know the difference between an inflammatory response and fat gain. And that is highly important. We just look at the scale and say, the scale went up 5 pounds, but usually when I look at women's photos, I see a lot of bloating and distension. So what that would look like is things are coming out as opposed to drooping down. Fat is going to fall differently. Like it's gonna feel heavier. It's going to fall heavier, and bloating, inflammation, that kind of thing is going to come out. It's going to be more distended, maybe some puffiness under the eyes. So start to identify what your symptoms actually are, and then we can look at how to solve those problems. And it can come with, I don't want you to think that you have to cut out your favorite foods. It usually is not necessary, at least long term. It might be necessary short term to start to identify triggers and or identify whether or not you have a food allergy again, or if you have some gut health issues going on. But again, where you can start is if you're experiencing fat loss resistance, if you're experiencing some skin issues, if you're experiencing a lot of bloating and GI issues that usually come with food allergies, start there. Cut gluten, cut dairy, cut alcohol, 12 weeks, 8 to 12 weeks, and then start to add those things back in. It will help with everything that you have going on, and you'll be able to quickly identify what it is that is causing the blockage and or the bloating, or whatever the case may be. Yeah, so start there. And then while you're doing that, make sure you're getting 25 to 30 grams of fiber a day. Make sure I drink green tea, and I swear it has been a game changer for my digestive health. A little bit of lemon every single day, at least once a day. You can do matcha as well, but I would avoid is like the sugary matchas and stuff from Starbucks. It's not really going to help improve the gut health. We want it to, work with our gut microbiome. And you can have sugar, of course. I'm not here to shame any food source at all, but we don't want to add sugar to our gut health protocol. So a probiotic, you can do that in pill form, or you can try just eating more foods that are like a Greek yogurt or more fermented foods, those kinds of things, whatever you like. I'm not like a big fermented foods fan. My husband is. He'll do that for his gut health. I just added in a nighttime probiotic that has actually been hugely beneficial for me. And I, again, am somebody who does have celiac. So I did this protocol. I took out gluten, dairy, and alcohol. This was 12 years ago now. And noticed that as soon as I started adding gluten in, my symptoms came back. Then I went and got tested for celiac and found out I had that. You can get tested or not if you think that you may have celiac, or you can continue on the route of just eating gluten-free without having the test done. It really is up to you. It's just more of like, for me, I just wanted to know whether I had it or not. But it didn't really change anything because my body responded so poorly and so negatively to eating gluten that I wasn't going to be able to eat it, whether or not I got a yes or no diagnosis. So you can let that be up to you. And like I said, once we get your gut health back stabilized, a lot of times we can add in. And like for me, it was dairy because I took dairy out as well. And once I had the gluten out of my system, once I started prioritizing some gut health, once I got my fiber back up to where it should be, I was eating a lot more whole foods. The dairy didn't bother me nearly as much as it once did. I had such an extreme reaction to it when my gut wasn't as healthy. So if we can focus in on that, improving gut health, getting ourselves back to a place where we're having regular bowel movements, they are firm, like those kinds of things. No, I didn't warn you we were going to start talking about poop, but this is hugely important when it comes to your health. You should be having a bowel movement at least once a day, if not twice a day. They should be mostly the same consistency, firmness, that kind of thing. And if you're not, that's another indication that we're dealing with some negative gut health issues. If you're constipated a few days a week, loose stools a few days a week, and then sometimes it normalizes, we want it to be more normal, more often than not. And if it isn't, that indicates some sort of either nutrient imbalance like fiber. I know I keep going back to fiber, but most of the time we don't have any idea how much fiber we're getting in. And when I start to talk to people who come to me for coaching, come to me for help with these things like gut health issues, that's the first thing that I'm going to ask. And that's the first thing that we're going to start to address, as well as supplementation. So if we're over supplementing fiber and protein, those are two things also that can cause some gut health issues. So if you're a gym girly like me and you're utilizing protein powder and protein bars and protein snacks, those the sugar alcohols in that can be gut disruptors. So I would suggest, if you're going to undergo this autoimmune protocol or a food allergy protocol, minimize or take out supplemented protein, with the exception of maybe 1 scoop of protein powder a day. It does help, obviously, to get to your protein goal, but specifically those bars and snacks that taste like candy bars, they're utilizing a lot of food, sugar alcohols that really can be damaging to our gut microbiome as well. So there's a lot of things that you can troubleshoot through. Usually when I start, I will have somebody track their food for 7 days. I will look in full detail at each item that they're eating, identify any potential irritants, look at gluten, look at dairy, look at supplementation of protein and fiber, look at supplements in general, and be able to identify what shifts that we need to make to start getting you to feel better. So if you have any questions on that, I'd be happy to answer them for you. But that's what I would do is, one, just start tracking your food for 7 days, identify how much protein you're getting, how much fiber you're getting. If you're eating mostly whole food based, or if you need to work on your food quality a little bit, track your digestive system, start to identify any triggers that might be happening there. Like, again, if you're constipated for a few days, this is also something that causes a lot of frustration in the weight loss community, is we're overlooking constipation. So if you're constipated, especially for longer periods of time, you probably will see scale plateaus if that is the goal, because you are backed up. So there's a lot of factors that go into overall health when it comes to your gut. And again, most of your serotonin and dopamine is produced in the gut. So those are your feel-good hormones. So if you're prone to anxiety, it's going to help with that. It really is kind of the central hub of everything that's going on in your body and how your body reacts and responds to all of the variables that we're giving it throughout the day. So getting your gut health in a good place, identifying any food triggers or allergies is huge. And then, hitting those weights 2 to 4 times a week. All of these things are going to put you in a way better place emotionally, for sleep, physically speaking, and again, will only help if you have body composition goals as well, but not necessary if you don't have body composition goals and you just want to feel better, have more energy, sleep better. All of these things will help you do that as well. As always, if you have any questions that you want me to address specific to you, you're always welcome to reach out to me personally. I'm happy to help you troubleshoot. I have helped look over some food logs to get people started. We can talk about coaching, whatever the case may be, whatever you need. My DMs are always open for troubleshooting and getting you started, figuring out how to get you closer to your goal, and most importantly, feel really, really good most of the time. So I will see you guys all next week. I hope you have a great day, and we will talk soon.